and on point with this issue, but I think that while I would imagine we're all in agreement, Haynes v. Gay clarifies that the section in question of the tax code applies to LLCs and the individual liability applies to members. The Hovel case, I believe, implicitly holds that managers also can be held liable, individually liable for LLC debts when the LLC's charter has been revoked. And if I can share my screen, I actually was going to pull up that case so I can show the court.
I have a copy of it, but
Oh,
you
okay.
can do that. But that's okay. You can do that.
Okay, I think that, and again, I know this isn't part of the necessary holding, but the sixth case note says the sole manager of the limited liability company was not individually liable to homeowners for LLC's debts. And if we skip down, it's because the strict construction of the tax statute led to the conclusion that the LLC's debt was created or incurred pre-forfeiture. So, and if we go further down in Hovel, it seems agreed and not disputed by the parties in that case, because I think the law is clear that one, the statute applies to limited liability companies, and both parties agreed that Battery, which was the entity's sole member and manager, was personally liable for debts created after or during the forfeiture. But again, the court found that the debt incurred was pre-forfeiture. Otherwise, Battery would have been held liable. The court does not clarify that he would have been held liable because he was a member, because he was a manager, or because he was both. It just references the fact that he would be liable if the debt was created or incurred during the forfeiture, and it wasn't. And so that plus, again, the way that this case is always decided, which is that it stands for a proposition as to whether this section applies to managers, I believe this holding indicates that it does. Otherwise, the focus would have been just on his standing as a member. I was unable to find a case during lunch that specifically answered that limited question, whether a manager himself or herself is individually liable due to forfeiture. I was just able to find in this other case, and again, it is not the main purpose of the case. Oh, this is the Bruce case, the Flores case. It is Flores v. Chang, where the argument which the court was considering is that a manager, member, or officer of the LLC defendants becomes individually liable for the LLC defendants' actions. All of that being said, I believe that through the questioning of Defendant Perez and impeachment exhibits, if necessary, I can very quickly and easily prove that in fact he is all three: an officer, officer/director, as well as a member, as well as the manager.
Beanstrow, what is your response?
Your Honor, when I was looking at Hovel, the thing that that Hovel really dealt with, whether or not the debt and the definition of debt, as we saw. But the thing that popped out at me more than anything else, and was that the rule of strict construction, because this is a quasi-penal statute. And that's why they went through this very lengthy undertaking of what is a debt and whether, and how are we going to apply the word debt to this type of situation. And so one of the things that really, and there was no discussion about it in the case, but frankly, it never came up because they ruled that it didn't apply anyways because of the definition of debt. But is the rule itself that we're looking at says a director or officer. It doesn't say a member or manager, okay? And so there is a difference between directors, officers, members, and managers in our business code. And there's a difference. You can be a member without being a manager. You can be a member without being a director or an officer. You can be a manager without being a director or an officer.
Let me make this clear. the Dallas Court of Appeals, and I assume this is good law since you guys haven't said, has specifically said if a limited liability company's charter is forfeited for failure to file a report or pay a tax or penalty, however, a member, just says member, it doesn't say manager, is liable for the debt. And so the question is, is he a member? If he's not a member, is a manager, which is not clear to me, it's the case, one way or the other, is a manager liable? And so it doesn't sound like anybody has found any cases right on point. So I guess the issue is going to come in is there sufficient evidence to show that he's a member, and that if he's not, we'll need to figure out if we want to make new law about managers. So we'll go ahead and go to the next witness. Mr. Perez, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Will you state your full name for the record, please?
Yes, Everardo N. Perez Jr.
Okay, Mr. Perez, we've been referring to you, I'm sure you've heard throughout this trial today, as Lido. Is that your nickname? Is that what you go by?
Yes, that's a nickname. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so if you don't mind, may I refer to you as either Lido or Mr. Perez? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So you've probably heard most recently a discussion about PSA Valve and Machine LLC and its corporate structure. Have you heard the discussion that's been going on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and isn't it true, Mr. Perez, that you individually are a member of PSA Valve and Machine LLC?
No.
Do you understand what the term member is?
Yeah, okay, define it for me. I'm not clear.
I'm
not
asking.
a member of.
You don't
No.
understand what member is. Do you distinguish between a member and a partner?
Between
that
a
again?
member and a part.
Can you say the question again? You cut out, Mr.
Yes, Your Honor,
Huffman.
sorry. Do you distinguish, Mr. Perez, between an individual classified as a member versus one classified as a partner with regard to LLCs?
No, sir.
They're one and the same to you?
Objection if they're calling for a legal conclusion here.
Yeah.
If you don't know, he's already said he doesn't know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Isn't it true, Mr. Perez, you're responsible or you took it upon yourself to file all of the corporate tax returns for PSA Valve and Machine?
I have never filed. I have never done any tax returns.
You've never filed a tax return for PSA Valve and Machine ever?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to bring up share my screen. What I'm going to call and mark plaintiff's exhibit 26. Hit the share screen button first. All right, can you see this document on the screen?
Yes.
You see that signature at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
Is that not is that your signature?
It looks like my signature, but I don't think it's my signature. I don't remember ever signing any of these documents, and
Okay,
I certainly didn't prepare them.
But so then it's your testimony that the signature is forged and then it couldn't be self-prepared as it says right here?
I'm saying I don't remember signing those documents, nor even seeing those documents.
Do you recall receiving a K-1 from 2013 through 2017, identifying you as a limited partner or other LLC member of PSA Valve and Machine?
No, I do not.
So do you take issue with the K-1 that's shown on the screen here? You think it's inaccurate?
Like I said, this is the first time that I've seen it.
Okay, so you
Your
wouldn't
Honor, I don't know if it's been offered as an exhibit yet, but we're doing a lot of discussion about it. But right now I do object to authenticity of this. And Because
I've never
my
seen that.
client's not even aware of where the tax returns came from, with regard to the company.
He said he's never seen this. You haven't produced it.
I didn't receive it until today, Your Honor. I'll move on from this question because I've got another document. So Mr. Perez, if there were tax returns filed with the IRS for 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017, all of which contain your signature, is it your testimony to the court here today that someone forged your signature for all of those tax returns?
I'm saying I don't remember signing those tax returns, not even seeing them.
So is it
They're all-
possible that you did?
Is it possible?
Yes, sir.
I've never seen those tax returns before.
So it's not
And
possible.
well, all those were signed, all those tax returns for those years were done on the same day, were they not? It
How do
seemed
you
like
know that?
all the
How do you-
dates are the same.
How do you know
Well,
that?
when
I just
Well,
showed
when
you.
you,
Wait, hold on. Let me ask my question first. I just showed you the 2013 tax return only.
right,
How do you have any idea what the other dates are for the other 3 years of tax returns?
my attorney showed them to me,
So you have seen them before.
just now, like 10 minutes ago,
Let's see.
15
Okay,
minutes
so,
ago, yes, sir.
so your testimony a few minutes ago was you've never seen these before. Now your testimony is you saw them.
Today is the
Objection
first time for
argumentative,
me.
Your Honor.
Today's the first
Mr.
day I've seen.
Tobolowski forwarded these to me after our intermission. And I think that's what Mr. Perez is trying to say, is he'd never seen them prior to Mr. Tobolowski sending them to us prior to, during the lunch
Okay, I
break.
get that.
That
Let's
is
move
correct.
along.
Okay. And so it's the same true, Mr. Perez. Have you ever filed any public information reports for any companies?
Not that I'm aware of.
Let me also take a step back. So your testimony is you're not a member of PSA Valve and Machine LLC. Do you know who is?
The members,
Yes, sir.
according to the documents here,
Just
RMP Group, sir,
according to your own personal knowledge.
RMP Group and 11 Ventures.
Who owns RMP Group?
Jose and myself own RMP Group.
Okay, who owns 11 Ventures?
Roger Patel and Dinesh Patel.
And they own what group? I'm sorry.
You asked me who owned 11 Ventures.
11 Ventures, right. And that's
Yeah,
who owns.
that's who owns 11 Ventures. Yes, sir.
Gmat Holdings doesn't own 11 Ventures.
I can't be sure.
Do you own Gmat Holdings?
I'm the one that owns Gmat Holdings.
Okay. And as you sit here, is Gmat Holdings active?
That I'm not aware of. Jose set up all these companies, so I'm not sure.
So you own a bunch of companies that you've never said that you didn't set up. Is that what you're testifying to?
I'm testifying that Jose Rodriguez set up Gmat Holdings. He set up 11 Ventures. He set up PSA Val and Machine. He's the one that did all the paperwork
For you, right?
for the companies, for the entities.
Okay. So then he's the one who I should talk to about who the owners are. He'll know better than you.
I'm assuming he set him up. He set him up. Yes, sir.
Okay. So he'll know if you were a member.
Objection argumentative.
I don't know what he knows or what he
And,
doesn't.
and also it's mischaracterizing his testimony.
Oh, it was a question. It wasn't a statement.
Overruled. If you can answer. If you don't know, just say you'd be
Yeah,
speculating.
I don't know if he knows or not.
No, it wasn't whether he knows. I'm saying he would know better than you because you don't know, right? If you were a member.
I don't know the answer to that question either.
But you don't know whether you're a member. Is that right, Mr. Perez?
A member of
Objection,
which
he's already answered that he knows he's not a member.
Okay. So if that's your testimony, so you're not a member of PSA Valve and Machine. Let me ask you this. How did you produce documents with PSA Valve and Machine's name on them in this case?
I'm assuming through emails that we received.
Why did you have them?
Because Jose was a partner of mine and he worked in my office for a while.
So he just gave you all corporate documents?
But there's a lot of emails that went back and forth between him and myself, him and Juan,
Gotcha.
and myself.
Gotcha. And why is he sharing information with you about a company with which you have no affiliation?
Objection, it mischaracterizes his testimony. He already said he's had RMP Group is one of the members of
Right.
PSA
Machine
Valve and
Valve.
Machine, and he testified that he has an interest in RMP Group.
Let's
Okay,
move
so-
along, Mr. Tobolowsky.
I'm trying, Your Honor. I can't get direct answers here. So is your testimony now that you indirectly own an interest in Valve and Machine, PSA Valve and Machine?
Through RMP Group, yes, sir.
Okay. And so do you have knowledge about PSA Valve and Machine's operations?
Do I have knowledge about them?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you participate in PSA Valve and Machine's operations?
I brought sales to them, yes.
Okay. So what was your title with PSA Valve and Machine?
I didn't have a title with PSA Valve Machine. I was a salesman for PSA Inc.
Okay. So as a salesman for PSA Inc., you were doing sales for PSA Valve and Machine?
That is correct. Oh, well, I was doing, no, not Valve and Machine per se. I was doing sales for PSA Inc. PSA Valve and Machine is one of the companies that PSA Inc. represented. We represented several companies. They weren't the only company we represented. I was a salesman for PSA Inc., which represented PSA Valve and Machine. We represented PSA Pumps and Compressors. We represented Merriam Instruments. We represented a whole host of companies. So they were one of the companies that are represented.
I'm sorry, when you say represented, do you mean you did sales for them, or what does that mean, represented?
Yeah, so PSA was established in 1974. We were a representative company. We went to the chemical plants and we sold different products into the chemical plants, but they're all different companies. We brought them into the chemical plants. So we're what PSA is, what you call a manufacturer's representative.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so you did what directly for PSA Valve and Machine?
If there was valve repair work in a facility, in a chemical plant, and I was aware of it, I would tell them that we could handle that work, and I would bring that work into the shop.
Okay. And all of the work you did for PSA Valve and Machine, how much did you get paid?
I didn't get paid through PSA Valve and Machine. I got paid through PSA Inc.
So you're doing work for PSA Valve and Machine, but getting paid through PSA Inc.
No.
Objection, mischaracterizes his testimony.
Yeah.
Your Honor, every time Mr. Veenstra does this, he can testify for the witness. I just want to make sure that's not about to happen again. And I don't think I mischaracterized his testimony.
Explain how it works, Mr. Perez.
So how it works is if Dow Chemical, we all know who Dow Chemical is. It's a big chemical facility. If they need a valve repaired, I am in that facility. PSA Inc. is in that facility. We have a vendor number. We're vetted to do business with them. I can bring in a host of different companies to Dow to perform that service. Okay. So Dow would give me the valve. I would then take the valve to PSA Valve and Machine, who I represented. They would give me a cost estimate. For argument's sake, it's $100. PSA then would charge $150. Okay. And so PSA Valve and Machine would invoice PSA Inc. because they're two separate companies. PSA Inc. is where I got my money from. So PSA Inc. made $50. PSA Valve and Machine made whatever the profit that they made. That's just an example, but that's how it worked. PSA Inc. got a percentage of every company that we represented. Whatever sale it was, for Merriam Instruments, we got a 35% commission on whatever the sale is. Altec is 35 to 40%. The valve company was around the same. Pump companies around the same. They're all around 35, 40% of the sale.
Did you just say PSA Valve and Machine would invoice PSA Inc.?
Yes.
Any reason why none of those invoices were produced in this case?
No.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm not sure there was ever a request for production for that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Never asked.
Okay, and do you recall, Mr. Perez, I took your deposition back in October of 2019. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, it's been a couple of years.
You remember we talked about,
I remember meeting you, and yes, I remember meeting you and doing a deposition. Yes, I do remember that.
okay, and do you remember I asked you at your deposition, why did PSA Valve never once pay for any of the services provided by Uno Outsourcing?
I have the deposition in front of me. Can you point me to what page it was on?
Sure, page 69.
It's page 69. Let me refresh my memory. Let me see.
Your Honor, if you don't mind, can we repeat the question on that?
I was asking him if you remembered when I asked him a question at his deposition about why PSA
On
Valve
page 6.
never once paid.
Never. Okay, what services were you talking about?
We're not-
The payroll services.
Okay, and you answered.
You're
yes.
asking. Go ahead.
Okay, guys, Mr. Perez, you both do, but especially you have a real tendency to interrupt him before he finishes. The court reporter has to be able to take down everything's being said. And so if you keep interrupting him, it's going to have a very unclear record. So let him finish his question, Mr. Tobolowsky. Let him finish his answer so that we can have a clean record here.
My
So-
apologies.
Yes, sir. My apologies.
Okay, is it true, Mr. Perez, that PSA Valve never once paid for any of Uno Outsource's services because PSA Valve didn't have the money?
The question. So is that you're asking me a question?
Yes, I said.
Are you
isn't that-
just are you stating what was on the what I said?
Mr. Perez, isn't it true that PSA Valve and Machine didn't pay for any of Uno Outsourcing's services because PSA Valve and Machine didn't have any money?
There were times that happened. Yes, sir.
There were times when PSA Valve and Machine did pay for services?
Yes, sir.
When?
There was 3 or 4 years that we used their services, and there was only a few checks that PSA had to pay, or me personally. So I know there was payroll every 2 weeks, or I'm assuming there was payroll every 2 weeks.
Are you aware of any documents before you or that have been designated that indicate PSA Valve and Machine has paid one or more invoices issued by Uno Outsourcing?
No, there's no documents in front of me.
Okay, and if the tax returns that were filed for PSA Valve and Machine provided that there were no expenses at all until 2017, then wouldn't you agree that PSA Valve and Machine couldn't have made any sort of disbursements or paid any of its expenses?
I think
Objection calls
I
for
told you.
speculation.
Yeah.
You can answer, Mr. Perez, if you know.
Okay. Like I said, I have not seen those tax returns until today. So there's a lot of information here that I'm not even aware of. I had not been aware of.
Okay. And I started talking to you a few minutes ago about the Texas Public Information Report. You know what those are, don't you?
I'm not familiar with them, no.
So if your signature is contained on one, let me ask you, let me bring up, I'm going to share screen with you. Okay, so is this your signature, Mr. Perez?
It appears to be so.
Okay, and so is it true then that you represented to the Texas Secretary of State in
Wait,
20?
wait. Our court reporter just got kicked off.
Okay, Judge, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the last question I got was from Mr. Tobolowski. Are you aware of any documents that have been designated that indicate PSA valve and machine has paid one or more invoices issued by UNO servicing, and then I got kicked off. So I don't know what happened after that. I didn't get the answer.
Mr. Perez, do you remember your answer?
Right.
Okay, restate the question again, Michael.
To the court reporter's question, do you recall, are you aware of any documents that exist that indicate PSA valve and machine ever paid one or more of UNO Outsourcing's invoices?
Am I aware of any documents that what? Say it again, which company?
How many companies do you own?
Mr.
That wasn't the first-
Mr.
Yeah,
Tobolowski, that's irrelevant.
Yes.
I know what
But
you're trying to ask. Mr. Perez, you do need to answer the question. So
Yeah, I was having a hard time clearing. I'm having a hard time hearing him, and I'm looking at this document that he has up on the screen. Those people in that document, that's not even the right company. That PSA valve and machine, those people have nothing to do with that company. Those people are members of a company called PSA Pump and Compressor. Who created that? I have no idea, because that is all wrong. That document that's there
what
on the screen.
what exhibit number is this?
Your Honor, this is, and I just went to the Texas Secretary of State. It's not been designated. This is for impeachment purposes. He's not denying that this is his signature, but he's attempting to pretend as though he's never seen the document to try and not have to answer questions about it.
So this was in 2019, is that right?
Correct. Your Honor.
And Your Honor, and this is 2 years after the time period being even discussed in these UNO outsourcing issues.
Do you have one from 2018 or 2017?
Mr. Perez filed two, one in 2014 and one in 2019. And that's it. This one corresponds pretty closely, I believe, with the filing of this lawsuit, Your Honor.
That's
Again,
not
Your
even-
Honor, it's not relevant to the time period here.
It is.
And
It shows that Mr. Perez is a director by a document he signed and declared that it was true and correct to the best of his knowledge and belief. And Your Honor, I do have a case, the case I accidentally clicked on earlier, Bruce V. Freeman Decorating Services, which talks about what is sufficient evidence to determine whether someone is an officer or director of an LLC. And it's exactly this. When somebody signs a PIR, especially.
Okay, what is this? What exactly is this citation? What's the number?
It is, scroll to the top. It is 2011
Can you go grab them?
Westlaw 3585619.
Wait. You're sorry. Go 2011 Westlaw 3585619. And it's Bruce V. Freeman
Yes, Your Honor.
Decorating. Okay.
Decorating Services.
Okay, go
And-
down to the portion that you were talking about.
Okay, so this portion right here, which it looks like the pin site for it is *3.
Okay.
And it talks about to prove the individual status as a director or officer of the LLC, the opposing party presented the Texas Public Information Report prepared for that LLC, which identified that individual as the officer and director. And he was the same individual signing the report and certifying that the information was true and correct to the best of his knowledge. And although on his own testimony, he denied being a director and claimed he didn't sign that report, in judging the credibility and comparing those two things, the Court of Appeals found that it was sufficient. I'm going to scroll up here. The evidence was legally sufficient to support the court's implied finding that Bruce was a director of the LLC. And that's exactly what this 2019 public information report does. All of those tax returns were filed in 2018.
Okay, so do you want to offer that 2019 as an exhibit?
I do, Your Honor. The public
And
information.
that'll be exhibit what?
That will be exhibit. Sure, it's 26.
Sorry, give me a second. Let me know where this case is from.
It is out of the Court of Appeals of Houston, 14th District.
Okay,
This would be plaintiff exhibit 27, Your Honor.
all right. Plaintiff's exhibit 27 is admitted. Make sure you email a
Your
copy
Honor,
of
can
that.
I assert an objection on that?
Sure.
Objection to relevancy. This is a report that was filed, appears to be filed after the case in the facts of the case here that are relevant to 2017, and B, to the authenticity of this and that it's hearsay. This has been something that we've been produced to prior to today. We hadn't seen this prior to today being provided by the plaintiffs either. And so for those reasons, we have several objections to what is exhibit number what?
27. And if you'd like a response, Your Honor, I can respond.
It's overruled. That exhibit is admitted. Exhibit 27 is admitted.
Okay, let me stop my screen share. Okay, and so, Mr. Perez, let me ask you a couple more questions. What is the difference? I know you explained a little bit. Can you explain in simple terms what the difference is? Is PSA Inc. just a sales company?
Yes,
Okay,
that's primarily what we do.
and who does Joe Can 2 work for?
Currently, Joe
Sure.
Cantu works. Currently, Joe Cantu works for PSA Inc.
When did PSA Valve and Machine stop operating?
In 2017,
And how do you know that?
because they were out of money and we separated. We began fighting before then.
Who's we?
Jose and Juan.
Are you saying that Juan is also an owner of PSA Valve and Machine?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay. You just mean the dispute between the three of you. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. Now, would you agree with me that it's understandable why someone may understand PSA Inc. and PSA Valve and Machine to be the same company?
no.
You have your deposition in front of you still?
Yes, I sure do.
Will you turn to page 72, please?
Okay.
Okay, and do you see I asked you the same question at your deposition?
Would you agree to this? What line item is it?
Let's start at line 8.
Question, would you? Okay, I see that. And I answered yes.
Okay, and
Objection argumentative.
Overruled.
is now your testimony is no, or do you want to change your answer back to what it was at your deposition and say, yes, it is understandable why someone may understand why PSA Inc. and PSA Valve are the same company?
I'll stand by my answer in the deposition. Yes. I mean, they both have PSA.
Okay. Okay. And to be clear, I know it's been talked about by the lawyers, but lawyer talk isn't evidence. So you don't dispute, it's your position that the payroll services from Uno Outsourcing were provided to PSA Valve and Machine. Is that right?
That is correct.
You don't dispute that PSA Valve and Machine owes the money Uno Outsourcing is claiming it owes, right?
That is correct.
You just dispute whether you or your other entity, PSA Inc., should also be held liable for that debt, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And is it true that your lawyer also represents PSA Valve and Machine?
Sam represents PSA Valve and Machine.
Yes.
That I can't answer. I don't know, to be honest.
Did you not retain Mr. Veenstra on behalf of PSA Valve and Machine?
On behalf of myself and PSA Inc.
So you did not retain him on behalf of PSA Valve and Machine?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know.
Why don't you know?
Because he's been my attorney. So
Is there anyone else that you're aware of who could have hired Mr. Veenstra to represent PSA Valve and Machine besides you?
perhaps Jose.
Okay, do you have any knowledge as to whether Jose hired Mr. Veenstra to represent a party that he's sued?
No, but he's been Jose's attorney, mine and Jose's attorney for R&P Group, which owns part of PSA Valve Machine.
I'm a little confused. Are you testifying that Mr. Rodriguez, who's a plaintiff, a member of one of the plaintiff entities, and has retained me to represent them, has also retained Mr. Veenstra to represent the party that we've sued? Is that what you're saying?
I was saying Mr. Veenstra has represented Jose and myself as R&P Group in another lawsuit.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you recall at your deposition, I asked you, do you have any other documents in your possession, custody, or control relating to Uno Outsourcing?
I'm sure you asked me that. Where, I don't know where, but
Page 80.
page what? Page 80. Oh, I don't have a page 80.
He provided you copies of the excerpts that he had pointed
Okay.
at.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let me move on.
Yeah, copy of that.
Did PSA Valve ever have a bank account?
Yes, they did. From my knowledge, they did.
And when was that bank account closed?
That I don't know.
But it was closed at some point.
I'm assuming it was closed.
Okay. And isn't it true that it was closed before PSA Valve stopped operating?
I have no idea.
Okay, will you turn to page, do you have page 83 of your deposition in front of you?
No, I do not.
Okay, let me pull it up. Actually, it's going to be too difficult. Who does Paula Estrada work for?
PSA Inc.
She ever worked for PSA Valves?
No.
Any reason why her email address is at PSA Valves?
That I don't know.
Okay. Now, how many occasions, if you can remember, did you individually pay for PSA Valve and Machines debts?
That I don't remember. I don't recall. I think y'all had evidence that I paid twice or three times. I'm not sure. Personally, you talking about personally?
Yes, sir.
Yes, personal check. Yes, I believe that y'all said I paid 2 or 3 times. I don't know.
Okay. And do you recall how many times or how frequently PSA Inc. would pay the debts and obligations of PSA valve and machine?
Other than the documents you guys provided, I can't say.
Okay. Now, do you have page 62 of your deposition in front of you?
I believe I do. Yes, sir, I sure do.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you testified earlier that you worked for PSA Inc. and in that capacity represented PSA Valve, and that PSA Valve would invoice PSA Inc. for work or services it performed. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any reason why, when I asked at your deposition, did PSA Valve ever provide any sort of assistance or services to PSA Inc.? You said not that you're aware of.
Well, when you say services, when you say assistance, I was not clear what assistant meant. I mean, they're their own entity. I don't know what assistant means or services to PSA. Did they do delivery? Did they?
Objection to the optional completeness, Your Honor, because I think beginning at line 8, it gives a better understanding on the question from line 11.
Sure. I'm happy to go up. Line 8 says, okay, so we've said PSA Valve got help from PSA Inc. Did it ever occur the other way around? You asked me to clarify. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then I asked you the question in a clarified manner, and you answered, not that I'm aware of, no. So, but now you're testifying you don't understand what I meant by assistance or services?
Well, they were just doing their job. I don't know that they assisted PSA Inc. in anything. They were just doing what they do.
Okay. Okay. We mentioned Joe Can too, and I'm kind of jumping around here. I'm trying to get through this with you. Joe Can too. Did he ever work for PSA Valve and Machine?
Yes.
Okay, so he's worked for both.
Yes.
PSA Valve. Okay.
And he works for PSA Inc. today.
Okay. How many other employees worked for both?
For both companies, Joe Cantu, and the only other one that I hired was Roberto Vasquez.
Okay. And I know you said Paula didn't get paid by PSA Valve and she was an employee of PSA Inc., but I'm curious, why is Paula communicating with Uno Outsourcing about payroll services for PSA Valve and Machine?
Why is she communicating?
Yes.
I'm rarely in the office. She's my assistant, so she handles. Actually, when Jose was in the office, Jose was in our office. Actually, the office that Paula has now. He was there for 5 or 6 years. Them together handled most of the finances. I was there. I'm rarely at the office. Okay. I'm out making sales calls, or I was traveling for cricket. So rarely was I at the office.
My question was, Paula works for PSA Inc., right?
That's correct.
Why is she communicating with Uno Outsourcing about payroll services for PSA Valve?
It was either under the direction of Jose told her to reach out to him, or or myself. If they were already handling our payroll services, which Jose set up, she was free to communicate with them.
Okay, so you said Jose set it up. So if Jose testifies that when he set it up, he hired Uno Outsourcing for PSA Inc., you would have no reason to dispute that.
No.
Okay. Now, we've talked about the payments you made to Uno Outsourcing for some of these invoices, but would you agree with me that you step in and financially back all of your companies, right?
If I can help them, yes.
Right. And so you frequently step in and pay the financial obligations for companies you own parts of, right?
I have in the past. Yes, sir.
And you did frequently with PSA Valve and Machine, right?
I'm not sure how frequently, maybe a couple of times.
Okay. And what about PSA Inc.?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's move on to Gmat for a second. What is the salary Gmat promised you?
The salary was 120,000 a year.
Starting when?
Well, we were going to go back to when we started working together, when I started the company back in 2007. So I had never taken a pay check since 2007 when I started the company.
So first of all, let me ask you, this purported agreement for you to receive $120,000 in salary it's per year, I imagine?
Per year, yes, sir.
Okay, and when?
Plus the expenses.
What do you mean plus expenses?
But well, we incurred a lot of expenses. There's a lot of traveling, a lot of gas, all that, a lot of meals. We were at conferences. All those, that was done. Supposed to be paid for by Gmat.
Why didn't you pay for it on the corporate credit card you charge your personal expenses on?
Some of them I did.
Why would you charge things on a personal card if you have a corporate card?
I charge most of the things on the corporate card.
Okay. You're just saying your agreement was that if you ever did have to come out of your own pocket, you were entitled to reimbursement.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And when did you reach this agreement with Gmat?
It was a verbal agreement that we had since we went in business together. They came on board. I opened the stores by myself. I had 10 stores on my own before I ever knew Jose and Juan. They joined the team. We met through an attorney. They joined the team in 2010. And then in 2012, we formed Gmat Communications. And that's how it got started. And I think you were the lawyer. I went back and looked at some documents. I think you were the lawyer that helped them with the documents. So your name, I think, was on them back in 2012.
You sure it's not my father?
Oh, maybe your father. I don't know. Your
Okay.
last name, that was similar. Yeah.
Okay. And so that was a little confusing. You said you started Gmat Communications and then they came in, but then you said you formed Gmat Communications together.
Okay. I'm sorry. I formed the company I started was called Gmat Wireless. And then in 2010, they came on board with Gmat Wireless to help me run operations. They were doing operations. I'm not a finance guy. I get lost in finances. That's Jose's and Juan's deal. I'm a salesman. I had the contacts with Cricket. I had all the connections to grow with Cricket. I couldn't run it operationally. So I brought those two guys on board. We met through an attorney I had at the time. He told me that these guys were, their background was finance, financial issues, all that. They could help. We met I brought them aboard in 2010. I thought we were a great team. And then in 2012, we formed Gmat Communications, and we moved all the stores that I had, Gmat Wireless, into Gmat Communications portfolio.
Okay.
That's how we got started.
Did they pay you a bunch of money to do that?
No, they did not.
They pay you anything?
No, they did not pay anything.
Yeah, you still only ended up with 10% of Gmat Communications?
What? Do what? What'd you say again?
So Gmat was formed in 2012?
2012, yes, sir.
Okay, so the question is very specific.
Okay.
When did you reach an agreement to be paid $120,000 plus be reimbursed all of your expenses?
When we formed the company in 2012.
Okay, so you reached that agreement in 2012 with the other owners of Gmat?
Yes, with Jose and Juan. That's correct.
Okay. And between 2012 and 2022, how many times did you demand payment of that alleged salary?
When things started to break apart and I felt like they were trying to kick me out of the company I had started, I started getting very vocal about salary and reimbursements. And that's when everything started to deteriorate. Matter of fact, Sam and I flew up to Dallas to see the books. I wanted the copy of the books. I wanted to know where all the money was going. We were denied that, and that was in 2018. So, so during this time period, things started to deteriorate.
Is there any reason why you haven't pled a claim to recover this back due salary you claim you're owed?
We're planning that.
You are planning it?
I believe so. I'm going to talk to legal counsel, to Sam, and see what my repercussions are.
I mean, we're talking about $1.2 million of back pay that you claim you're owed, right?
That's correct.
And you've never sent
At least.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you've never sent a written demand for any of it, right?
No, not currently.
You didn't respond with a counterclaim to recover it, did you?
No, we have not.
Okay. So other than we've got a salary, an oral agreement to pay you $120,000 per year indefinitely. Is that your testimony?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay. Of which you claim you were paid zero.
that's correct.
Okay. So I imagine the first part of your offset claim is that you're entitled to $1.2 million offset for back salary.
I'm owed something for salary. That's correct. I mean, up until at least 2018, they kind of kicked me out of the company since then.
Why is it?
In 2017, I think, is I stepped down as the CEO or lead principal in 2017, I believe it was. I've got to go back and look at the emails. I'm not sure.
If you're entitled to an offset for salary, why can we not just take what you say they were agreeing to pay you each year and multiply it times the number of years between 2012 and the present?
We could do that. That would be one way to calculate it. Yes, sir.
Isn't that $1.2 million?
Okay, if that's what it comes out to, yes.
Okay. So salary back pay of $1.2 million is the first part of your offset claim. Right?
Correct.
Okay. What else? You said that you're also entitled to reimbursable expenses. How many out-of-pocket expenses have you paid on behalf of Gmat?
On behalf of Gmat, I would have to go back and get an exact number, but it's thousands and thousands of dollars. I would probably say at least $300,000 to $400,000.
Do you have anything as we sit here today at trial on your claim that you're entitled to this offset?
We didn't submit it, but I do have.
You don't know,
and things.
but you don't know as you sit here right now what the number is.
I do not know the exact number now.
Okay,
that's correct.
Okay, so we got salary, we've got what you claim to be owed as reimbursable expenses. Why else are you entitled? Do you allege you're entitled to an offset? What else does Gmat owe you?
We were supposed to have a car allowance, and I know I think Jose got a housing allowance when he first started in 2012. So all those were things that we had discussed.
So how much of the car allowance? How much of it?
I'm not sure what the car allowance that they paid themselves were. I'm not sure, nor am I sure about the housing allowance.
Okay, so you claim you're entitled to an offset for a car allowance. You don't know the amount though.
No.
Okay.
We typically do. Go ahead.
So you don't know the amount. What is the basis? Where is the agreement for you to get a car allowance?
We actually provided cars for some of the managers because I know that Gmat, Jose actually bought one of my cars for one of the managers there for Houston. So we were providing cars for some of the managers, and I know that those, Jose and Juan got car allowances.
Okay, so you don't have a specific agreement with Gmat for a car allowance.
We had talked about it, but we just we never had the money. Supposedly we never had the money.
Do you have an agreement with Gmat for a car allowance?
A verbal agreement, yes, sir.
A verbal agreement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but we don't know the amount, right?
No.
The next one is, did you say home allowance?
I think Jose got a housing allowance, but I mean, I'm not
So
really claiming that. I'm not claiming, I don't know.
Okay,
The salary and the car allowance and expenses is fine.
you're not entitled to you're not claiming you're entitled to a home allowance.
No,
Is the only reason you claim you're entitled to a car allowance because you believe Jose got some sort of car allowance?
no.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that Gmet, that you allege Gmet owes you in the form of money or assets?
For right now, for this purpose, no, that's it.
Okay. So the universe of your offset claim is this, your back salary, your out-of-pocket expenses, and car allowance.
That's correct.
Pass the witness, Sean.
Ross, actually, you know what? This is probably a good stopping point for right now. We'll take a quick 10-minute break.
Thank you.